We did just hear from the Democratic nominee Terry McAuliffe moments ago. He only spoke for just a few minutes and notably did not concede the race. Now, Republicans had originally hoped to flip 3 seats here, but Democrats limiting losses despite some harsh political headwinds. Coming together over some beef tenderloin and pumpkin pie, Governor Ralph Northam congratulating Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin for his victory. Do you think that those big Democratic losses are evidence that perhaps your administration went too far to the left in a state that's still purple? Did you misread your mandate?
I don't think we talked about what we've done.
Governor, do you agree with Lieutenant Governor Sears that it's time for the GOP to move on from President Trump if he announces another bid for the White House?
She is her own independent person.
Abortion rights advocates right now in downtown Richmond who moments ago were shutting down streets. Do you want to see a law like passed in Texas pass here in Virginia?
I definitely would. That's a little radical.
You said in a previous interview that you would support a ban after about 6 weeks of pregnancy, similar to what had been done in Texas when a fetal heartbeat can be detected, some contend. Are you walking back that position?
No, I'm not sure that I'm walking that back. I'm just saying 15 weeks.
It means that Virginia will be the first state in the South to greenlight recreational marijuana. How long does it take to get from seed to smoke?
We're going to name this one Jackie.
Aw, that's so nice. We've done it.
You've done it.
You are witnessing my first time driving an electric vehicle. Just witness the car park itself.
There you go. Nice. Wait.
You can see the cockroaches is kind of scrambling.
Cockroaches crawling under a broken stove. Rats sneaking bites of fruit.
Those are the holes where the rats come in through.
Tenant Marcella Gitumul turning to this wad of tape to keep them out. A failed temporary fix. She says it's been an issue since she moved in here 5 years ago. But despite regular calls to maintenance, she says no results. New Virginia Majority Immigrant Justice Organizer Sofia Vega translating.
She's exhausted of having to constantly go and ask maintenance to help fix the issue, and then them just telling her that they don't have the staff or that they're too busy or that they'll check in later and then they never do.
Just down the street, Mother Cindy Cabrera fears her microwave will catch fire. She says her toilet won't flush without a mess.
Everything will come out from where that black duct tape is.
The wait for a fix, she says, more than 2 months. Meantime, she says she's paying for other repairs out of pocket. Vega says advocates have heard hundreds of similar stories from tenants at Southwood Apartments, Richmond's largest Latino neighborhood, here rallying for action in November of last year.
I think it's the reason they go out and fight every day for better repairs, because obviously, as a mother or a father, you don't want your child to live in conditions like these.
In that fight, another setback as Governor Glenn Youngkin shoots down a bipartisan bill that advocates say would be a big help. In his veto explanation saying, quote, this legislation contains unnecessary and duplicative provisions already established under the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code that provide effective powers to localities to enforce violations.
The justification that was given for the veto is not factually accurate.
Bill sponsor Delegate Marcia Price says currently localities have the power to condemn properties, which she says risks worsening the affordable housing shortage. Alternatively, they can sue for a fine. Price says that presents a problem too, because the money doesn't go back to tenants and it often doesn't cover the full cost of fixes. She says this bill would make a difference because it would empower localities to force repairs and would allow them to take action against an entire apartment complex.
But this is really about the landlord having to live up to their side of a contract, and that's just what's not happening.
The landlord declining our interview request, but referring us to these residents who say they're pleased with the living conditions at Southwood.
When I request repairs, they're done almost instantly.
The place is being changed since it used to be before. So I think this is a great place to live.
A spokesperson for Southwood says they've recently increased maintenance staff by 50%, with 15 now working full-time. After completing assessments of all 1,300 units last week, they expect to wrap up more than 100 remaining significant repairs by the end of May. But the tenants we spoke to fear the fixes will be Band-Aid solutions to long-standing problems.
These are horrendous living conditions, and nobody who pays rent deserves to be living in a situation like this.
Just I love that little face.
In her son Taylor's bedroom,
It's been like this since he passed away.
Mother Carrie Rhodes reflects on how a tennis injury turned into a fatal addiction. She says 5 years after shoulder surgery introduced Taylor to opioids, the 20-year-old overdosed on fentanyl.
Nothing prepares you for, what that's like as a mom. You know, it's the worst moment of my life. I don't get to see him grow up. You know, that's brutal.
Years after Taylor's pivotal surgery, Rhodes says her daughter had the same procedure with a very different outcome because this time, Rhodes fought for a non-addictive alternative to manage her pain.
When I asked, well, why is that not what we're doing for everyone? The answer was cost. And there is no cost for not having your 20-year-old.
Advocates say outdated federal policies are still incentivizing the use of opioids. Rhodes says the way Medicare structures payments discourages hospitals from prescribing alternatives because they're often more expensive. The American Medical Association agrees, and they're among the many groups urging Congress to expand access by passing the No Pain Act. The bill was revived more than a year ago, but it's still gathering dust in committee. Rhodes says she's been asking Senator Mark Warner's office for help since 2020.
She wrote a letter to your office where this mother says, it feels like you're sitting on the fence while people are dying. So why haven't you co-sponsored this bill?
I've been convinced at this point there are these non-opioid based alternatives. That's why I'm joining the legislation now. It's why I hope I will encourage other members to join.
Co-sponsor Senator Tim Kaine says he thinks there will be chances to pass it before the end of the year.
Whether it happens by December 31 or not, I do think we're very likely to get this bill passed because it does have strong bipartisan support.
But as the overdose death toll rises, Rhodes says families cannot afford to wait for more choices.
I'll have to live with it the rest of my life and regret that I took that prescription and I filled it and I wasn't educated enough to know what kind of risk I was putting his brain at. And I think having options would have made a difference.
Reporting in Ashland, I'm Jackie DeFusco. Governor Ralph Northam reflecting on a 4-year term, nearly cut short by calls for resignation after being accused of appearing in a racist yearbook photo. Do you regret the way that you responded to that controversy? And what do you say to people who still don't believe your reversal that you were not, in fact, in that photo?
That was a very difficult time for Virginia, and I regret that. As a result of what happened in February of 2019, I've learned a lot. I'm a better person, and I think we've been able to put a lot of focus on things that we might not have done.
Under Governor Northam's leadership, Virginia became the first state in the South to end the death penalty and legalize recreational marijuana possession. Confederate statues fell.
Send that traitor to his grave!
Then, after racial justice demonstrations consumed Richmond in 2020, Northam backed a batch of police reforms. But rather than defunding the police, he's proposing big raises for law enforcement in his outgoing budget. Can you truly answer calls for racial justice while also supporting law enforcement? Or in an effort to do both, did you fully accomplish neither?
I think we can continue to support law enforcement. It's very important that our streets, our communities are safe, but with that comes accountability.
Meantime, the nation's only governor and doctor was grappling with a health crisis and economic collapse. As Virginia's finances now rebound to record highs, the new Omicron variant is prompting some to reinstate COVID restrictions. Is the indoor mask mandate a step too far?
That's a very difficult law to enforce, and so it's strongly encouraged, and that's the approach that we'll continue to take.
Before face coverings became a common sight, a tragic mass shooting in Virginia Beach triggering a push for gun violence prevention. Despite an outpouring of opposition, Northam signing nearly all of those bills into law.
We didn't have the votes we needed in the Senate to pass a law banning assault weapons. Hopefully in the future we will, and we can get those off of our streets.
It won't happen anytime soon. With Republican Governor-elect Glenn Youngkin taking over, Northam is rolling out the welcome mat. Do you think that those big Democratic losses are evidence that perhaps your administration went too far to the left in a state that's still purple? Did you misread your mandate?
I don't think we talked about what we've done as Democrats in Virginia enough during the past election. It became nationalized.
What do you hope that the country learns from the transition of power happening in Virginia right now?
I hope Americans will contrast the way that we've dealt with our transition compared to what happened in Washington.